All right. I'm excited. Okay. Still learning about this whole streamer thing, figuring out where all the magic buttons are and so forth. But super stoked to dive into things here. Trying to make sure that all the different feeds are correct and so forth. So, okay. Today, missed a couple of weeks. Didn't have the gas in the tank to do a stream because I got to bring the energy. But here, I want to bring some fun stuff that has been going on in the Shopify CLI space. So typically what we do is we dive into a piece of the Shopify CLI code and we just look at it, understand how it works, and really seek to better understand how this whole thing is put together. Fortunately, we have something a little bit more interesting maybe to do today than just look. We get to actually work on something. And so let me kind of set the stage with what we're hacking on. And we probably won't finish hacking on it in this session. We're just going to go for an hour, but we can dive into this more in future sessions if people think it's worth it, or if I decide that I want to do it again. We'll see ultimately how it goes. But yeah, so here's the story. I work on a thing called Shopkeeper. It's a CLI tool for maintaining Shopify settings and helping manage deployments. And so, I just, in the process of building this, I've realized that there's actually an issue with the Shopify CLI, not like a thing that's broken, but more like a missing feature. And the missing feature is if you go to our great big giant guide. Oh, I haven't shared my screen. Let me just do this for you. In our great big guide on the Shopify, Shopkeeper repo, what you're going to see here is a description of how to use Shopkeeper to build CI/CD. And the CI/CD steps are all outlined here, but let's go to this generate preview one. And what generate preview does is it takes a Git branch that you might have in your repository and pushes that code to Shopify. Pretty boring, pretty basic stuff generally. However, right here, we have an extra command that's been created. It's called theme create, and it seems like a kind of a silly command, honestly, to be building, because we have theme push. However, theme push, as I talk about here in this issue, theme push is not idempotent. What do I mean by that? Idempotency, if I'm getting the computer science definition correct, is just that when you do something, it always has the same result. There's only one possible result, and it just does the same thing always. The push command is not idempotent. What it does is it will create, for as many times as you push theme push with an unpublished flag, it will push a new theme, and you'll get many of them. Now, if we're building a CI/CD system, that's kind of annoying. That would mean that every time that we would create it, like our preview action would run, we'd have to do something like look up the theme for that branch and blah blah blah, and then in order to make sure that there was only one theme on Shopify that corresponded to our branch. So a better way potentially to do that would be just to make a command that is idempotent, just does the simple push. And that's what the Shopkeeper theme get has been doing all this time. We added this. It's just basically a light wrapper over top of push that's basically intended for this purpose and this purpose alone. I don't think anyone would use it for anything else. But it allows us to create a theme, pardon me, not get, but theme create here, it would allow you to do what I'm talking about. I had a quick conversation with some of the folk at Shopify about this. I opened this issue some time ago and it actually got closed, but there was some interest back in a couple of years ago in order to solve this. And so what I did, and I'm just coming around to getting into the weeds on some of these things, and as we're getting ready to make a new shopkeeper version, what we're going to actually do is introduce a modifier flag for the theme push unpublished kind of command that you would put. And again, this is a proposal. This is a draft PR. I'm working on the draft PR now, and that's what we're gonna watch. You're gonna watch me do. We're gonna do together. But that is, this is what I'm gonna be proposing. And obviously, the team over there at Shopify is gonna have their views on if I've kind of done things in a way that they're happy with, in a way that is maintainable, and so forth. But I'm pretty confident that we can do that given my experience in the Shopify CLI and just generally my familiarity with this code base. So I'm just going to walk you through kind of the solution that I'm proposing, and then we can dive into the code. And the code isn't actually that complicated. There's just, obviously, when you're building something for hundreds, probably thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of developers around the world working on the Shopify ecosystem, you got to make sure that the command does exactly what it's supposed to and is very reliable. So let's walk through it. So I've talked about how theme push with unpublished is not idempotent. What I'm proposing is that we add an additional modifier flag to the theme push unpublished kind of stream that then adds this modifier that says upsert rather than just insert. So in this, and the reason why I picked this approach is there is kind of a pattern that's being followed here. So you have a basic pushes, then you modify it with unpublished, which allows you to create a new unpublished theme with the past name. And then what I'm saying is like, well, unpublished modifies a push, upsert's going to modify an unpublished. And we can actually do some stuff within our definition of the command flag to make sure that upsert is only ever really seen when we're using the unpublished command. And so we can dive into this. And this is not so much Shopify, it's more about Oak Cliff, which is the underlying technology. So we can just take a quick look here, oakcliff.io. I'm just going to grab the docs that refer to this thing. So command flags. So Oak Cliff has this ability to establish relationships between flags. There's some pattern logic here that you can use to decide how you're going to like exclude or include things and make things valid or invalid and so forth. So what I'm going to use is I'm going to use this relationships thing in order to say that my new flag is dependent on that unpublished flag. So because we don't really want it to run. So I've got the Shopify CLI all set up here. I'm not going to go through those steps now. It's actually really straightforward. The one caveat you just need to know is that the Shopify CLI repo runs on PNPM 8, not 9. And if you try to use 9, it won't work. So if you use 8, you'll have no problems whatsoever. So yeah, just use 8, and you'll be having a grand time. And it's a really, like, again, I continue to give compliments to the Shopify team. Things are fairly well organized and easy to follow and easy to get into things if you're somewhat familiar with how some of these tools work. Not too much weird going on here. So let's go out to the command. Let me make this just a hair bigger for all the peep in the back. Okay, that's too big. I don't need to read that much. Okay, so let's just close that, close this. We'll figure out what I lost there in a sec. It's not gonna be a big deal. But here we are. So we've got the push command, and it takes a set of flags. And you can see here the set of flags, some globals, some theme specific stuff, and then this is a new one. Oh, literally just simply the JSON flag. Okay, interesting. Cool. I hadn't seen that before. When was it up to? No, recently, 2 months ago. Cool. And then we got some other theme flags. These are all ones you're all probably familiar with if you use the CLI regularly: dev, live, unpublished, and then no delete, and some of the other stuff. So what we want to do is we want to add something that goes on to unpublished that modifies it. So originally I was just calling it unique name. I couldn't think of a better way of referring to it, but a much better name is upsert, because that's, I think, what it actually is going to do. And then we can probably end up hooking this into some other logic that probably refers to an upsert. So it'll just all kind of make sense. So when we define a flag here, we're going to say that it's a Boolean flag, meaning it's going to take no value that's passed into it. We're setting a default value here of false. I always like to set defaults just because unless actually this should be true. Default for this flag should be it should be false unless it's passed in, which then would make it true. And then we want to change this guy CT. So we just want to change this to flag, so we continue to follow the this will be the upsert. This is kind of I'm sure there'll be some negotiating on that later. Default will be false, and then we want a relationship. This basically says that we depend on this unpublished flag. At least that's what our Oak Cliff stuff says. So make this flag dependent on all these flags. Yep, that's what we're doing. And we don't really care about adding any extra logic about that, so we'll just do that. Maybe I will get corrected on that, but let's just go with that. I'm also not adding a char for this one. I don't know what it should be, to be honest. It's starting to get pretty. There's a lot of flags with a lot of chars floating around, and I actually think that you probably just want to just specify it in full. Again, we'll see. We'll see what Shopify says. Maybe we change that. Easy change later. Make the push to an unpublished. Yeah. So this is where we need to say, what on earth does this thing actually do? So we are saying make pushes to unpublished theme do an update if a theme with the name already exists. Okay, again, documentation is always going to be something that people will come and look at. So once we have this theme, this part here, let's just see if we got any uncommitted changes. Okay, no. So once we have this flag added, kind of our outer API, we can go in here and we can just say Shopify theme push. Oh, I got to do a couple things. Refresh manifests. So quickly explain what this is doing. One sec, I gotta do a couple. Right. Push flags. Okay, where are they here? Push flags, code definition. I changed my mind. Push flags, so it should be under unpublished. The object blah, 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 does not exist on type. Okay. This is due to me already having dabbled in the implementation. Well, this will get, let's just walk through how I get to where we need to do the implementation, which is going to be just in this file, the service for it. Once we get down here, creator select, I am just going to, where's this push commands, line 28. This guy, let's just comment him out for the moment. That should do it. Cool. So this is going to update the Oak Cliff manifest. Oak Cliff manifest is what Oak Cliff uses to identify and output kind of command information. So now when we run PMP 88, Shopify theme push, it should start showing us our flag somewhere in here. So here's our upsert flag. Makes pushes to to unpublished theme. Do an update if a theme with the name already exists. Great. So that's already showing there. Oop. Oh, don't need to go there. So that's nice. So we can jump out of that. Did I make this extra big or how did I do it? Okay, good. All right, so now let's continue the implementation. So we need to take the information that is coming in from the command that's parsed as an arg and send it into our actual push service that's going to do the work. So this is our push service. I happen to kind of know where in the code it's going to happen. I'll explain why that's there. But then let's take this line and say upsert flags dot upsert. And we want a comma at the end of it, and it's going to give us a type error. So we're going to go to definition here, and we're going to add something right here. One thing I do regularly, I like to put code that performs together next to itself. So because we're modifying published, I'm just gonna add it right next to it here. Ooh, we got 3 of them. Okay. So then we're going to change this to be an optional value, which will never really actually be optional because we get a default out of the flag. I wonder if that's actually going to be a problem. Shopify kind of, I think, runs on a convention that it either has a value or it's undefined. So maybe I undo that. I do this in... So we want the upsert value. So very similar. We're gonna determines tells the up tells if when a new when we push to an unpublished theme, we check if a theme exists with the name. If it does, we use it. We update it. Probably too long, but we'll find out. Some of this stuff will just take some careful code, some copywriting later. This is mostly for other developers, so that's good. It explains what it does. Yeah, so maybe controls whether a push to an unpublished theme should update a theme with the same name if it exists. Something similar, but maybe a little better. Okay. So this is actually this file that's over here on the right. So let's just go to the top of it and kind of trace in quickly here. So this is the service that's being called. There's some theme check stuff that's done on a push. Check out that strict flag. I think it's relatively new. And then some work is done to just set up the environment, and then we execute a push. And pushes actually are really kind of, I would say, rudimentary in a way. And this is great because all the logic of figuring out which theme and all that jazz has been dealt with by the time it gets to this execute push. Execute push just simply says, give me some stuff, some flags to filter, and shove it up. And it goes and does that. So our code is going to actually be on this thing that selects the theme that we're pushing to. So if we go here and we just come down a little bit, it's a relatively big function. So this is a thing that's going to control where that theme is pushed, or that code is pushed to. So you can see here, if the development flag is passed through, it just bails and just like only goes to your development theme and returns that development theme object. Right here is the theme. If it's the unpublished, then it also just goes into a path here where it's saying, hey, if you've given me a theme already, because you can run that command without a theme flag. If you didn't, go and get me the name. But if you did give me the name, go ahead and create it. So this is why every single time we run that command, it's always just creating this the theme with the same name in the unpublished role. And so we're going to need to change the logic of this little block here. And then this other guy down here, what it does is it, if you don't have a theme already selected, it gives you an option to choose which theme you want to push to. So personally, I think some of this is doing a little bit too much, because it's doing, this will also do the output. We can quickly go to the definition on this guy. It's also going to do the autocomplete stuff. I guess it's just prepping the output. Does it push back here? Yeah. It's a little bit hard. You're going to see in a couple of seconds here, there's some stuff that's kind of confusing in a few places. I think maybe one day these things could be broken up into some more pieces, but we can do that later. If they like my PRs, I will keep sending them. If they don't, well, I won't. But I think they will. Team's great as long as you're doing stuff that fits in with their overall thing. Because remember, in open source, if you make a change, they're responsible for maintaining that change. So it needs to be vetted properly. So we want to make sure that we're adding to something and just taking away the work from them, and not putting them in a place with an extra maintenance burden. So we don't want to make more work for people. No fun. No fun. Let's just take a quick look, see if anyone has commented on any of the places where I know to look. Not so far. Okay. Let me just check on the producer-y thing here. I think this is a live stream. Okay. No messages in the chat. Great. Okay. Hopefully somebody's watching this. If not, that's okay. So I got to solve this problem anyway. So we get our flag in. I think I'm just going to kill off that default now. We pass our flag in. We pass our flag in here. And then we, right here, when we're getting the theme to operate on, create or select a theme. Okay, so we've got a couple flags: live, development, published, theme. Let's add another one here. Upsert. Pull that guy out. So in the case of this, in the case where we are unpublished and not, oops, let's go here, and not upsert, what? Okay. Not upsert, then we want to do this. That makes sense. So what do we need to have happen? What are all the different cases that are possible? Let me just quickly write these out. So Shopify theme push dash unpublished. Shopify theme push dash unpublished upsert Shopify theme publish or push, not publish, theme name dash unpublished, and then Shopify theme push theme name unpublished upsert. Okay, so in this case right here, we need to prompt for the name. And here's an interesting question. When the when we have the upsert flag here, do we want to prompt for the theme name based on a new name and what already exists? That's a good question. So just prompt or prompt for a new name or name of existing theme. Because upsert would allow you to choose an existing name if you were using it. Now you're like, what? Probably not ever going to use that. Here's the thing. You got to make sure that all the surface area is covered in when you have these different combination of flags. And I actually think this is something I may try to provide some additional PRs around, is just clarifying kind of how some of this behavior works with all the different potential flags that you can combine. Specifically live, allow live, development, unpublished. There's kind of a bunch of different tiers of flags that interact with each other. Yeah. Okay. So this is interesting. If we were to follow the, let's see this thing. So the unpublished behavior is just a prompt for a new theme name. And that's really easy if you don't pass anything in. So that's this guy right here. So if we prompt for a name out of the existing bucket, then we would need to use this guy. This guy finds or selects, find and select a little bit confusing. Isn't finding also selecting? So this, what does it do? Filter, options filter. Okay, so this allows us to kind of choose. So this guy, it's saying filter all the themes based on live or the theme name if it exists, and give, this guy also has an option to, if create true right here, to create the ability to make a new theme, and that returns new theme, and the value is, it's kind of a chain of activities actually. If you create a new one, then it'll prompt you for the name, and it'll go and create it already. I think for simplicity's sake, I think I should stay in this zone. This is hard. This is what I was wrestling with the other day when I was working through this. If you look at my PR, I already have like some rough whip stuff up there. This is tough. What would be the expectation of the user? What would I expect if I was using it? Let's go take a look at what this guy does a little bit more. The find or select options, let's see what it's taking here. The filter. What does filter take? You can have a set of themes, a theme, a development Boolean, a live Boolean. Okay. We would only really be we would say something like, we'd just be curious to know if the theme already well, why is that passed in? Theme can be passed in because I think it's not a. Let me find this here. I feel like that's because it will partial match on it. Let's go to the definition, and it's by name, filter by name. If theme ID return true. Oh, it's just doing a strict. Oh, and then is partial match. Is partial match. We'll try to do some stuff. What? Okay, so you could actually put in a bunch of themes with patterns on them. Very interesting. Okay, well, yeah, so that's what I was thinking, that you could end up with. That's why you put a theme in this guy here, is it's going to filter by live, which in our case will be false or undefined, and then theme could be something, and then the select box would be shrunk based on what would be passed in. I don't know if anyone's really using that, but somebody must be somewhere. That actually would be a useful way of doing blue greens without having to specify the whole name right away. Interesting. Very interesting. Okay, so what we need to do here is, let's say in the simplest form of this thing, see, again, this whole thing is just simply about finding a theme. So when you're like, if it's unpublished, well, basically we want to say this and then do our changes. Do we want to put the tests for this all in a sub if or in a top level if? I think we probably for now can do something like this. There's probably another way to say this better. Okay, let's see. It's going to fall through. So if it's not this guy, do this. Do this, which is the normal pre-existing behavior. Else, if it's one of these special case, this other case, and yes, I can use a nested if. I'm just not sure I want to at this point. If it turns out that unpublished here is like all the logic is kind of tangled, then we can we'll extract a function and something like that. But first, let's make it ugly, and then we can make it nice. So here, theme name, yep, that's all fine. This is the existing stuff. So this ensures that we handle both of these. So this guy and this guy, let's put them together. Let's put that guy there. A little bit easier to look at, think about. Okay, so once we have that, then what do we do? What do we do? What do we do? We check to see if anyone cares. No. Then what we do is we deal with these two upsert scenarios. So if you don't give us a theme, we ask for a theme, and then I can change the name, prompt for theme name. I could change that. Yeah, that's a better idea. Name of the theme. There we go. Feels a little less confusing. Just give me a name. Any name. Give me a name, any name. And then, okay, so then obviously we can't just do a create theme here. Creates are, well, this is where things get branchy. Because what we need to do is we need to go see if the theme exists already. Return it if it does. Otherwise, make a new one. And this is for where you can start seeing potentially that we'll actually combine some of these two conditions ultimately with a little bit of the if condition somewhere else buried inside the other statement. But first we make it ugly, and then we find out what's common, and then we extract that out. Okay, so now we got to go figure out how to get all of the pre-existing themes. So we know that this thing down here filters and gets lists of themes. So we can go to that and we say, okay, that'll get us all of the themes. And then there's a filter thing that will filter all of these themes. Now, I happen to know a little bit about this filter themes function. In that case, it runs, just does the filtration based on this filter. It does a kind of a two-stage thing. Checks by role, checks by theme. We only care by theme. We're not by role, so this will early exit. So we're really in this code here. So this filter will have identifiers. If we go to filter, maybe I think it's down here. Yeah. So this thing's going to have these guys, which are going to be my names. Does stuff to see if it worked, to see if there's anything there. Some val the bloop blah bloop. Yeah. So we can just kind of depend on this to do, if we pass the right filter in, it will do the right thing to do it. Now, there's only one problem here. And that is it throws errors. It throws errors when there's no theme already there. If you try to filter by a non-existing theme, it'll throw an error. Or throw error. Return. Or throw error. And it comes up and filter by role. Okay, filter array. So what we need, I think what we can do, what is this saying? So this is, we're either getting an object. Yeah, so if it ever doesn't find something, return or throw message string and the filtered themes, or just straight up barf. If the themes is greater than 0. Oh. I need it to not throw an error. Otherwise, everything stops. So in Ruby, we would put a bang function on something like, a bang at the end of this. To signal that it was that it would fail if it throw an exception if it didn't work correctly. I want it to just return an empty list if it doesn't find anything. So this gets to my conundrum. Do I need to refactor this selector, theme, selector, filter, infrastructure to allow it to throw errors, to stop it from throwing errors? So it does this like chainable error thing. Let me see here. Yeah, so it's just it's returning an object which contains the dot or throw error function, which then takes an argument of the string. So you could just let's see here. Can I just not? I can potentially just not call that. No, the reality is I don't get a value out of it. I need this guy here without all this nonsense down there. Interesting. Very interesting. Very interesting. Good fun, hey? Looks like we're coming up on time. Yeah, so let us think about how this should be addressed. I think that's going to have to be the next stream. How do we want to handle this? And I'm sure I'll have some thoughts. I just don't want to refactor this code. Let me go back to it. I just don't want to refactor this code without without thinking through the implications of it. And because I do know it's fair. Well, these are all private functions. This guy's used a bit. Really? That can't be right. Only it's only used in the. Oh yeah, but of course. Let's see here. This guy's got to be used way more. Yeah. Okay, I have to think through like how it's used and where I can split it off. Yeah. It's a challenge. I don't want to refactor things as a part of my first PR. That would be unhelpful. But I think I think I need to add an or error or throw kind of flag onto this thing. And then I need to create a non-throwing version of each of these. And then the question is, can I reduce all my duplication? See, this just comes down to a themes.filter predicate. Yeah, so this is just a theme filter thing. And this just generates. These are the predicates that are going into the array. Yeah, okay, so that's the predicate there. That's the predicate there. I guess I can just create, I can create a version of this. It's literally, there's no business logic to this. You can say filter array or throw, just to follow the naming convention. Here, let me just rename the symbol properly. Or throw. I can do that. It's kind of redundant. The other thing I can do is I can remove. I can remove the filter function. I see that. Yeah, it's just it literally is just going to return. So I can do a filter array. So if I were writing this, I would just maybe just to change this, I would create a function that didn't have this, and literally only thing it ever would do is return arrays of that, and I would just return this guy, delete all this. What did I do wrong? Yeah, fine. Yeah, that's great. Okay, so the type definition is good. And then what I would do, I kind of have to back out of this. I would get rid of this guy. I would say that the logic is so trivial though. Filter array. And then I would where it really matters. This is interesting. Oh, but this will throw. Right. So if this, oh, it's passing that error in. Yeah, I think I just have to make the throws more explicit. I mean, I think this pattern of or throw is very nice. We want to preserve it, but we need to extract all of this outer logic for filter by theme, and then just but this is embedded so deeply into this. This is very interesting, because what it's doing is generating an error on a per identifier level. I wonder if there's one of the questions I asked myself earlier is there a different way to just get these things, to get these themes? And this is pretty much the only, this is the code that runs for all of this. There's some other stuff in the API, but it's much more low level. It just like, it gets all themes and stuff like that, but it doesn't have a filtration. I guess what I can do is I could step out of. See, I like the API. It's nice. You just pass it a filter the themes, give it a store, give it some themes, give it a filter, you get back. It's great. Lovely. I mean, all of these functions, in my opinion, should not have anything to do with it. Yeah, but the reason they do is because they're on a per role basis. And the logic is quite straightforward in a way that if you were to just, like, you're like, yeah, you just do it again because they're so embedded. Filter or throw. So why is this or throw thing working? Can I just not call it? What does it return? Returns an object. Has a function that takes an error and either returns a list or a never. Because if it here. So how does this work exactly? So if you return an object with a throw function. Oh. So if it is found, yeah, of course. This is how you do the pass-through. So this is the pass-through. This is the success case. Yeah, of course. Interesting. If this is a success case. Yeah, but the failure case is always still if you don't find it, which is exactly what we need. But filter array. Oh, I just refactored that out, right? Themes. Predicate. Right, and these are just layered up things. So filter array is the lower level version of this. So really kind of needs to be this whole selector thing needs to have a version that chucks exceptions or doesn't, depending on the result. I think I'm just going to do that. I think I just have to add that parallel implementation. So hopefully they don't hate it. Could I get around with... No, see, this thing will throw an error. We just literally need to check if the theme exists by the name with all the weird filtration stuff around names. Partial match. So we kind of do need to just go for it. Okay. There we are. That's wrapping up. So next time we go for it. We'll go for it. We'll if I stream it or I just open up the PR and talk you through it, or I don't know. I'm going to keep working on this between now and then. But I think I just got to implement a throwing version and a non-throwing version. I got to go see if I can find a pattern within the code base where they do throwing and non-throwing versions of stuff. Or look into how JavaScript land does this. Ruby land, it's very clear. Same with Elixir. I'm not sure about JavaScript/TypeScript. Anyway, thank you for coming. This is Code.reads, also known as Code.writes. Sometimes we read and we write. Appreciate you coming. Let me just change this up. Yeah, appreciate you coming. If you came, if you're watching this later, thank you for stopping by. And I hope you learned something about the Shopify CLI and some of the new changes that I'm hoping to bring to it. With that, sign off, and I'll talk to you next time.